So I was lucky enough to play Beyond Victory last weekend at Star Wars Celebration Japan. This is the new sort of mixed reality experience in development from ILM and MetaQuest. And if you want to see my entire sort of recap of the entire event in terms of Celebration overall, be sure to go and check out my previous video because I sort of broke it all down in that video. Once again, I have to give a huge thank you to MetaQuest and ILM for the opportunity. And today I pretty much just wanted to break down my initial thoughts on Beyond Victory from the playtime that I had in Japan. Now, the first thing I need to mention is that this is not a paid review or anything like that. They did fly me out there to play the game, but they were actually like really good with how they handled all that. They literally have not even put any requirements to make a video or anything like that. So they flew us out there to experience it, and that was essentially it. They said, obviously, we hope you make videos on it, but you don't have to. There's no requirements or anything like that. So not only is this not a paid review, I don't even have to make this video if I don't want to. And so the fact I am making it goes to show I actually really did enjoy my time with the game, albeit it was very short. But I just thought I should mention that because obviously a lot of people will think that this is a paid review. That is not the case, and obviously it is very illegal to say that if it is a paid review, so just keep that in mind. Now, unfortunately, in terms of like gameplay, I don't have too much gameplay to show. When I was playing this, the cast to the tablet that was sort of like how they were showing the gameplay to the other person in the booth, that wasn't working when I was playing. I eventually switched over with my girlfriend. She was playing, and as you can see here, I was recording some of that. This is just me literally recording from my phone off the tablet screen. So keep in mind, it doesn't look very good. It's also a little bit jumpy because this is straight casting. It's not, there was no chords or anything like that. So it doesn't look fantastic quality and stuff like that. I apologize, but they obviously, with a remote setup, they don't have a way for us to record genuine gameplay. I'll show you the trailer and stuff so that you can see some actual gameplay from their end. But yeah, in terms of gameplay, really the only thing I have is what you can see here, as well as some footage of me just pretty much standing there playing, which is unfortunate because it would have been cool to be able to record like the entire, you know, snippet of gameplay. Now, in terms of the process of what happened, we got into Celebration early on that morning. I think that was the second day, so the Saturday. We got in early, we were able to skip the queue. I was pretty much first up, me and, if you guys know Azatru, we were both the first creators to do this on that Saturday. Keep in mind, people had been playing the day before. A lot of my friends, for example, they queued up for like 90 minutes to play this. So people had already played this. I wasn't the first to play it, but just on that Saturday morning, me, my girlfriend, and Azatru were the first ones to play. Now, before that though, we got to speak with the developers, which was really cool. It was like probably a 20-minute talk with just literally, like I said, me, my girlfriend, and Azatru in a room with two of the developers. They were really passionate about the game. You could just feel it in the conversation they were having. They explained a lot of the reasoning, for example, why it's not a first-person pod racing game, because that is the first thing that a lot of people thought of. And they explained the reasoning behind that, that would be very hard to do in a VR game. It would make people sick, the speed that a pod racer goes. If you were sitting there actually doing that, some people could stomach it, but yeah, a lot of people just would not handle that. And they pretty much said they wanted to make it this way so that everyone can play it. If they made it first person, it would make a lot of people motion sick, and that just kind of cuts off a lot of people who they could tell the story to that wouldn't be able to play. So anyway, we had a chat to them for, like I said, 15 to 20 minutes, if not potentially longer. They gave us a really cool comic as well, which is like a prequel to the story, which I read, and it was very short, but it was a nice little setup for the story. And then after that, we got to go and jump in to the actual MetaQuest booth. So we got probably a 10 to 15 minute little session on Beyond Victory. I then handed it over to my girlfriend. She played for a little bit as well. She did better than I did, which was a shame. I got kind of roasted about that, but it's fair to say we both kind of sucked at it. It was our first ever VR experience, so we were both not that great, unfortunately, but it was still really fun. It makes me think that if I actually got good at it, it would be really fun, because the fact it was fun, and I think I came second last or something. Like, if I'm actually winning races and stuff, it would be a lot more enjoyable, so it has me excited to play again. Now, after that, we then I got to play Vader Immortal. We had about an hour window, so unfortunately the missus didn't get to, but yeah, after the Beyond Victory session, I got to play Vader Immortal, which was also really fun, and I definitely want to do a full playthrough of all of those. I get it's like one game, but it's like broken into a series. And so yeah, the experience with the actual games themselves, specifically for the case of this video, Beyond Victory, it was really fun. It was my first ever VR experience in terms of proper VR anyway. So I also think that once I can actually play it in the comfort of my own home, it will probably be a lot more enjoyable. There was a lot going on. It was like, partly I was a bit nervous, so many things going on. people walking around. You could see people because it's mixed reality. Like you can still see people walking past you and stuff. Heaps of people watching, my girlfriend filming me. So there was a lot going on. And I think that the fact that I enjoyed it despite all that goes to show that if I'm in my own office here playing it in the future, I think I'd really actually get lost in that sort of story, because that's really the only downside to playing it in a situation like that. I didn't pay any attention to the story because I was still trying to figure out all the buttons and everything. So the cutscenes were playing and I was just kind of like looking around trying to figure everything out. So I think when I actually get to play it properly, I will most likely enjoy that a little bit more, as well as the fact that, yeah, first ever VR experience, you're a little bit like almost taken aback. I was a bit like, whoa, this is crazy. So I just, yeah, my ADHD brain was not paying any attention to the cutscenes and stuff. And I think it's going to have a pretty good story based on the prequel. The comic sets it up really well, and it seems like it's actually got there's a bit of like heartbreak in there and stuff like that. Some pretty sad stuff already in the prequel. So the story I'm definitely interested in. We get to see Sebulba straight away, and the story seems as though, at least what we know so far, that Sebulba is essentially putting together a crew of pod racers, I guess, to win a big tournament or something. I'm not 100% sure. Maybe even the Bunta Eve Classic, I'm not sure. But the fact that Sebulba's in it is pretty cool. I think they said this is set during the time period of Solo, a Star Wars story. So it's obviously a little bit beyond when we saw Sebulba last time, but he's still kicking on over there on Tatooine. And he seems to be borderline famous in the comics and stuff. So yeah, the story sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun. Now, overall, in terms of my thoughts on the game in general, or the experience, it's not really a game. It's more of like it's an experience. I don't know how to describe it, but overall, I think it is going to be a very fun game to play. Now, it's not going to be for everyone. That's the thing. This isn't going to be Battlefront or the Jedi franchise. Like, it's not going to be that. And I think people need to understand that. They're not making this to be the some big AAA game of the year title. They said in that little chat that they are just trying to make something different and something fun and something very unique from what they've done before. So when you actually look at what the game's trying to be, I think it seemingly has done that really well. They explained it that they wanted this to feel like a tabletop game, like an arcade type of game, not a full VR experience. And from the actual races where you are looking at like a tabletop and you can still see the world around you in that mixed reality setting, it did feel like that. It felt like you were sort of in Star Wars and maybe you're at a cantina where there's like some sort of arcade room and you can go and play these tabletop games. That's how it felt. And I think they actually sort of nailed that feeling. So like I said, it's not going to be for everyone. This isn't going to be a title that literally everyone's going to want to play. It is a very niche game, but I think for those who like VR or mixed reality content, it's probably going to be a lot of fun. I'm not much of a VR guy myself, but especially after this and Vader Immortal, I think I actually really want to try these out because they just seem like a lot of fun rather than, going into games like, for example, Jedi Survivor or like when Battlefront 2 was launching. You go into those games with so much expectation that this needs to be this big AAA ultra successful game, and even if the game is like an 8 out of 10, you almost see that as a negative. It's like, oh man, this could have been a 10 out of 10. For me, I kind of enjoy these games, even a similar experience with Star Wars Squadrons, for example, where it's not the type of game I generally play, but it looks fun, and I just go into it with no expectation, and it ends up being a really fun time. Something that isn't going to overtake Battlefront 2 for me as like my favorite game ever, but it's just a fun experience that in 5 years you look back on with fond memories of playing that game. So that's kind of how I feel this game is going to be. And like I said, I'm definitely going to be trying to get my hands on a MetaQuest because I really want to play this, as well as Vader Immortal. I was really impressed by that too. I've seen a lot of gameplay of Vader Immortal, but actually playing it and seeing Vader like standing, I remember he walks up to you and I literally had to look up because he's so tall. And that was the moment I was kind of like, whoa, this is pretty crazy. And it was kind of the same thing in Beyond Victory. You see Sebulba and he walks past you and you actually look down at him and stuff. And it felt very immersive. And that's something that I haven't, as someone who hasn't played VR, that's something I haven't experienced before. So I'm definitely keen to give it a crack. And like I said, if you guys want to see some content on the VR experiences within Star Wars, seeing as we are going to be entering a bit of a quiet period for Star Wars after the Outlaws DLC, there's going to be probably at least 10 months maybe without any games at all, unless we get some sort of surprise. But yeah, it's going to be a bit of a quiet period. So if you want to see some VR stuff, if you want to see full playthroughs and stuff like that, then let me know, because that is definitely something I can look into. But that is pretty much it for my sort of breakdown or initial thoughts on Beyond Victory. Overall, really enjoyed it. It's not going to be some huge, crazy must-play Star Wars experience, but I think for anyone who enjoys VR, or even anyone who is maybe interested in stepping into VR, this could be a great entry point because it doesn't feel as overwhelming because it's mixed reality. So you can kind of still see the world around you. You won't have to worry about like the motion sickness side of it as much, in my opinion. And so I think for those groups of people, this is going to be a really fun game. So I'm keen to hear all of your thoughts down in the comment section. Be sure to leave those down below. But with that being said, thank you all very much for watching. You guys have a great day, and may the force be with you always.